Sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and could even keep you from the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Welcome to No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I hammer all the time, but I want to talk today about closing and the importance of our believing, salespeople believing, that it's okay for somebody to make a decision. That, quite frankly, we should expect people to make yes or no decisions. That, especially, which is what we're supposed to be doing, if at the beginning of our sales call, we have an agreement with our prospect where we say, typically at the end of a call like this, we're deciding whether or not we do X. Will you be okay with that? Now, back this up. I'm not saying we agree that you're going to buy at the end of this sales call. What we're getting an agreement to is we get an agreement that says, how about we agree whether or not you move forward? If you want to, great. I got the paperwork. If you don't, no big deal. I won't bother you. Close your file. Not a problem. Okay. So, and what we decide yes or no to, we need to negotiate at the beginning of the meeting. So if you're selling insurance, for example, you're selling commercial insurance, what you want to lead with is typically at the end of a meeting like this, we're deciding whether or not you do a broker of record letter, right? Whether or not you sign a broker of record letter and fire your existing agent. If you're not sure you want to do that by the end of the call, let's call it a no. Are you okay with that? Right? I want you to be comfortable. I mean, if you're selling commercial real estate, for example, you might say, let's decide whether or not in this meeting you sign this contract or whether or not you sign the listing agreement. If you're selling forklifts, then, why don't we figure out whether or not you sign this purchase order? Whatever. Now, if somebody says, well, I can't do that, we're talking to 3 people. Well, okay, that's fine. You say, well, let's do this then. At the end of the meeting, you tell me whether or not I would even be in the top 2. Or maybe they say, I can't, I'm talking to 2 other people. You say, well, let's do this then. Let's get back together again after you've gone over the other 2 quotes, and you and I can talk. At that point, you can decide whether or not you want to buy our stuff. In the meantime, if one of the other 2 quotes suits you, buy from them. Here's what I want you to understand. It's okay to expect decisions, especially and only if you tell people, here's what we're going to do. Typically, at the end of a meeting like this, we're deciding X. Is that okay? Okay, if that's not okay, let's take one step below that. Can we decide yes or no about this? Do not give information. Do not waste time with people that refuse to give you an answer of some kind to something at the end of your sales calls. Who are we always supposed to be meeting with? Decision makers. And what is their job? To make decisions. And they're at the end of the call when they say, well, I need to run this by the board when they didn't bring up the board before, or I need to sleep on this, or I need to talk to somebody else. Understand, they just did make a decision. It's not that they couldn't. They just didn't stick with your decision criteria. In your mind, you can call that a no. So what I want to talk to you about, that's how we prepare at the beginning of the meeting about what we're going to ask for. Now, what I want to talk to you about is what we do at the end. Your leverage is your proposal, is your information, is your pricing, is your how we're going to fix this stuff, right? I'm using my hand as an example. Let's pretend this is your proposal. This is your leverage. Don't give that away without getting something in return. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to show you the 5 steps of closing. When I talk about closing, we close here at the No BS Sales School before we present. What? How does that work? I'll tell you how it works. We close before we present. We close, which means we get an agreement that a decision is going to be made, yes or no, right? And if we can't get that agreement, we don't give our information. I'll walk through that. Let me show you the 5 steps. I made the 5 C's of closing. These are 5 steps in order. Please write this down. It starts with condense. The second one's confirm. The third one is commitment. The fourth one is closing agreement. And the fifth one is confirm. So first thing you do is you condense what you heard them tell you. So you said you had problems with A, problems with B, problems with C, that here are the consequences of those things. Here's how it's impacting you personally. You said if you don't get this fixed, it can cause X, Y, and Z problems for you. You said you had a budget of about this much money that you could spend, and that if you need a little bit more, you could pull it from over here. You said that you need to make a decision in the next couple of days because you had to get started with this thing. You needed to move forward because it was bothering you. It was time to get done. You said that you were the one that needed the information. You could make the decision yourself. And you said that you would need to see pricing and you need some understanding of what we could do. And then you said that everything else was good, that's what you needed. Oh, that you weren't talking to anybody else. I was like, okay, so is that right? What did I miss is the question. What did I miss? So the first C is condense, right? What did you hear? The second C is confirm. I do that in a negative way. What did I miss? What I'm looking for is I want them to respond. What I missed. What did I not say? Are we in agreement with what just happened, right? What did I miss? So if they say, well, you missed this and this and this, I'm going to say, okay, so I just heard you say this and this and this. Repeat it back. Very powerful, super powerful, right? Repeat back what you just heard. Shows you were listening. Do you know how few salespeople actually listen? Right. Not very many. Be different that way. Third step is commitment. Are they committed to make a change? Right? So here's how you phrase the question. Tell me something. Curious, how committed are you to fix those problems that we just talked about? How committed are you to fix those in the near term here, in the next couple of days, like you talked about? Now, I want to clarify. I'm not asking them to commit to me at this point. I'm asking them how committed they are to fix it somewhere in the near term, I might phrase it. How committed are you to fix this somewhere in the near term? Here's what I'm looking for. I am very committed. If you ever hear one that sounds like, well, here's what you know, they're not that committed. Remember, before a buyer makes a change, before a prospect makes a change, they have to answer two questions themselves. Number one, am I going to do anything different or differently? And then number two, who would I do that with? And those happen in that order. So right now, I'm confirming that they're committed to do something different or differently. How committed are you to fix this problem? Right? Let's make sure they're committed, because if they're not committed, why in the hell would I tell them how to fix it? So now I move to my closing agreement, which is basically I'm restating what I started with. Hey, listen, if I'm okay showing you what we think you should do, pointing out the mistakes that we found, showing you how we'd fix them, and exactly how what I do can address what you have, answer any questions that you have. If I'm okay doing that, will you be okay? Tell me whether or not you want to sign our agreement, right? And then I'm going to shut the hell up, because I want to ask that question. I want to listen. If I'm okay doing this for you, will you do this for me? If I'm okay going over our agreement, if I'm okay going over this stuff, showing you all the ways we'd fix it, exactly what we do, explain the pricing, answer any questions that you have, if I'm okay doing that, will you be okay? Tell me whether or not you want to sign our agreement, hire us, fire the person, whatever the step is that you've agreed to. Would you be okay doing that? If they say yes, then I say great. And then I go back to confirm. Again, do this on the negative side. Anything less than you're thinking it's a great idea to hire us, to sign this piece of paper, to give me a check, anything less than you think it's a great idea, let's just call it a no. I'm pushing for a no. What I want is a decision, and no is okay with me, right? I'm not saying if I show you how, will you buy? I said if I show you how, will you make a decision? You see the difference? Now, some of you are getting very nervous right now, and you're saying things like, well, that would never work in my business because, see, these are big decisions, and you don't understand my business, and nobody would make a decision in one meeting or two meetings or three meetings. Okay, well, chances are I have coached somebody in your business before who may have, at least at first, said the same thing. And then they realized that they were being a dumbass, because the person they're supposed to call on is a decision maker who is supposed to make decisions. And if somebody can't say yes or no, it usually means it's a no. So here's what I want you to do. So I had a class this morning with some folks and like, well, we sell this and, the CFO always needs to be involved. And a lot of times the CEO we're talking to, I said, okay, then make sure the damn CFO's in the meeting. See, part of your decision step, right, was to learn when were they hoping to make a decision? Why then? Who else besides the person you're talking to needs to be a part of this decision? What do they need to see or hear from you to be able to make that decision? Who else are they talking to? So we've already covered that shit. And so if they say, well, I'm going to need to talk to the CFO, then you say, well, let's do this. Let's have the CFO in the meeting. And then sometimes I hear, well, Walker, sometimes they lie. And, they say at the end of the meeting, I need to talk to the CFO. Well, at that point, I'll say, okay, well, I would tell you, sounds like it's a no. Sounds like it's a no. Now, let's be real here for a second. There is literal versus reality. This may give some of you guys you can breathe now. The literal answer is they've agreed to tell you yes or no. If we get to the end and they can't say yes or no, it's a freaking no. That's literal, done, walk out the door, gone. Reality is, let's pretend they say, well, I need to talk to the CFO. And you go, I want you to say to yourself, well, dumbass me, I missed that. Outside, I want you to say, you know what, my fault. I should have asked you about that ahead of time. How about this? Happy to have you go to the CFO. I would like to be a part of that conversation. Here's the problem. My fear is you and I get talking about something we think it's a great idea. You go to him, he asks you a couple of questions. The whole thing gets wrapped around the axle, and I've wasted a bunch of your time. And maybe say, no, I'll do that. Fine. So let's do this then. Can you tell me whether or not you can endorse this to the CFO? Can you go to him and say, I want to do this? Are you there? Right? Remember, people sometimes remember they've got to go to somebody else. That's fine. Usually means you miss that. And if this happens to you on a regular basis, I want you to stop in the decision step and say, hey, usually somebody in your position wants to bring the CFO or the bookkeeper or head of HR or somebody in on this decision. Do we need to do that here? Right? If this has happened to you more than twice, really more than once, then, and it happens again, that's your damn fault for not bringing it up. You need to realize, I'm going to say this for the 60th time, that getting yes and no decisions that you agreed to agree or disagree on at the very beginning is the most important thing you can do in sales. People don't know how to buy what you have. Yeses and nos are normal. Let me give you a story. Let's pretend you went to go hire. Let's pretend you're in big trouble. And you went to a very expensive attorney and he said, I need a $50,000 retainer to get started. And you said, well, let me think that over. Do you think that attorney would call you back in 2 days and go, so do you want to pay me? Hell no, he wouldn't do that. He'd have somebody else sitting in your chair in a second. Why the hell are we any different? We have the ability, with your proposal, you show them how you can fix their problem. You show them how you can fix it, what you can do. You've answered any questions. They should be able to tell you yes or no. Now, we haven't talked about how to show your proposal yet, but I want you to have in your mind, it's normal to get yeses and nos. And when you're out buying stuff yourself, I want you to see that it's normal to go someplace you trust, pick out something you like, and buy it. You shouldn't have to go to 3 shops. You shouldn't have to talk to 3 people. Pick one you trust, have a budget in mind, go buy it. See, that should be normal. You shouldn't think it's normal to have to shop around. If you do, that's costing you big money. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Get yeses and nos. Don't be a wuss. Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you're struggling to close deals, then I want to invite you to take my free mini course, where you'll learn the 7 most expensive sales mistakes that will cost you time, money, and credibility. So be sure to click the link in the show notes or go to www.7salesmistakes.com. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.